Now, even though the SQL Server Profiler is being deprecated and it's going to go away in future versions, it has been such a fundamental aspect of monitoring SQL Server for administrators for so many versions now that you're still going to see this mentioned on the exam. Just keep in mind that as compared to the extended events functionality, this thing is a little bit fat and slow. It takes a lot of resources, and so that's why it's going to be replaced. However, you can still learn a lot about your SQL Server, and this thing is still going to show up on an exam. So let's take a look at creating a trace with a profiler and then how you can use it. So the first thing we're going to do, we're in the SQL Server Management Studio. We're connected to our AdventureWorks 2012 database here. Let's go to the Tools, and right there at the very top, SQL Server Profiler. That will kick off the profiler and open it up. Notice we'll have to connect to our server with it. And we'll first give it a name. So I'm just going to call this Server Profiler Test. And I'm going to save it to a table. And I'll have to connect to my SQL Server to do that. And where do I want the table? I want it in AdventureWorks 2012. And I'll call it Server Profiler Test. So everything I capture here will be loaded into that table. Now I want to go to Events Selection tab here, and you will notice that I'm getting the batch completed and the batch starting. Okay, I'll take the starting off, I'll just get completed. And when a batch completes, I want to get all this information on it. Notice the writes duration, the CPU time, the login name, the NT username, the application name, and so forth. Notice I can tell it to show all events. And notice there's all this stuff out there that I could monitor. All right, we're just going to keep up with our T-SQL batch completed. All right, so I click Run, and this actually starts the SQL Server Profiler to running. I'm going to minimize it now and come out here and run some queries. So I'll just copy these, paste them in so that you don't have to watch me type these things. And I'll execute this one first. These queries, by the way, are out there in your working files folder if you don't want to copy them or if you don't want to type them. Then I'll select everything from person.person. That's going to take a minute because it's 19,000 rows. All right. Then I'm going to grab the select all columns from human resources employee. It's about 290 rows. Now notice I'll come down here to the taskbar and get the profiler back open again. And this time, I'm going to go in here and stop the trace. Now what happened is SQL Server just recorded everything that I did. And obviously you can see how this thing running, it's using a lot of resources, but it's also capturing a lot of data. Now obviously I could have cut down how much data I captured, but I wanted to show you some good examples here. So notice right here, you'll see there's the batch completed event. Notice if I click on that, I can see what was executed right here. That's the text of the query that was executed. Then if I come over here, here's milliseconds with CPU, the number of physical reads, or the number of, I think it's logical reads. The duration, that's milliseconds, so it's a little over, I don't know what that comes out to, 1 second. And then if we just keep going, we can see all kinds of things about this, okay? Notice we can see right here the application name. This was SQL Server Management Studio. All right, it was a query. I can see the NT username administrator, the login name, SQL Server 2 or Server 2 administrator. So I can see a lot of information about each one of these queries that I ran, and I can also see the various numbers relating to CPUs, reads, and so forth. Now, here's the cool thing. I will close this. So I'll close the profiler. And remember, we saved it to a table. So let me refresh my tables here and just right-click and refresh. And we'll come down here, and I should see my table in here that I created. And there it is, Profiler Test. Now notice if I right-click and select the top 50 rows, you can see that all that data is in a table now, right? So I could come over here and query for the CPU time for whatever query that I wanted. And as I scroll, it's kind of hard to see this stuff. But anyway, I can just go through here and query to find the data that I need. And so this is how I can use SQL Server Profiler. So just kind of stick this out there in your bag of administrative tricks. Again, this tool is going away in the future. Make sure you understand what Profiler is, what it does, what it can show you, so that you can use this and answer questions about it on the exam. Okay, so that's a quick look at the SQL Server Profiler.